Welcome to the Austin Downbeat. I'm Kat, your host. Super special episode today. So excited to talk to this guy over here. Will Knaak, welcome to the show.
Hi, how y'all doing? How you doing today?
So good now. You're a busy, busy guy, aren't you?
Yeah, thankfully. Uh,
I
Absolutely,
suppose.
it's better than the other problem, not being busy enough. I'd rather be too busy. But no,
I
it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So for people that might not know what you're doing these days or who you're playing with, so you're currently playing with Parker McCollum. You're in his touring band, which means you're like all over the place. I know just scheduling this with you over text has been so fun because it's like, oh, I gotta hop on a plane. I gotta do this. And I'm like, I love that. I love the idea of that life. And I think maybe some people watching do too. Can you speak to the realities of that life? Like, does it get a little, like, how do you balance it all? And what's the typical week for you like?
Okay, so currently the way his touring schedule works is like he flies us to the buses on like say a Wednesday evening or something,
Mhm.
Wednesday afternoon, depending on how far. We ride for a couple days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, fly home either Saturday night or Sunday morning, which is great because I have a daughter now. And like when I was with Blue October, I'd be gone for like 3 months on a tour bus. And I
Okay.
came back after a tour and like she was a different person. I'm like, I don't even know you. And so when that
Mm.
schedule was available, that really spoke to me. And there's a lot of other reasons. I love the Blue October guys. It's all good. We're on great terms. But
Yeah.
it was the move I needed to make. And it's going really well. But, in town, like I try and finally back on my routine because we didn't work for a while and I was in Mexico. But we were back to work. So like gym, 8 a.m. Then I might teach some lessons on Zoom. I still do that a little bit.
Nice.
Practice, work on guitar and pedal steel a little bit, and then go spend time with my daughter, which I just got back from. I literally just got in the door 5 minutes ago from Round
Oh,
Rock. So to hop on this, and then on the road, it's really good. Parker has a great crew around him, great people, and so we hit the gym every day, pretty much out there too. He has his personal assistant and his merch guy, are like Lane and Casey. If y'all are listening, y'all know y'all keep us going. Like if you can follow around these boys and lift like a quarter of what they do, you'll be in the best shape of your life. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So that, and we get well fed. But practice like this. Lately Parker and I've been doing like a 30-minute or hour jam before. And so we learned like a John Mayer solo this week and like just trying to
Fine.
put like we have all this dead time. It's called the waiting game, like
Mhm.
really that's what you get paid for is the waiting. But if you can't find like little routines in that, like why wouldn't you to just kind of build yourself as opposed to like, oh, I'm going to catering, now I'm gonna go to the bus and take a nap. Now I'm gonna like
Yeah.
so reading. I've been reading a bunch. I have 3 books I'm reading right now. One's on David Goggins. Our merch guy gave it to him. He's like a Navy SEAL that runs ultra marathons. Very inspiring mental guy based on what he can do physically, but it's the mental aspect. This book called The Inner Game of Music, which Morgan Wallen's band, some of the guys in his band were working out backstage at Wrigley maybe or something. I don't know. It wasn't. It was it was some show. And they recommended it. It's really cool. I recommend it to all musicians. It really helps you get out of your head. It's less about like executing and more about like feeling and paying attention and what's the story of the music and different tricks you can use to like get out of performance anxiety or just get into the flow state and make it fun again. As opposed to like make sure you play the right note. Oh, you might don't miss that part, and because then you're already in your head. You
Yeah.
might miss it, and even if you don't miss it, it's not fun. It's supposed to be fun. You're playing music, right? And
Yeah.
then another one's called The Obstacles Away, which is like based on some Stoic philosophy. So I know I went off on a bunch of books, but that's my routine's been like gym, music, and then mental doing that. I also do Wim Hof breathing most days and some journaling like affirmations or different things like that. So trying to really tackle it from all angles. I'm not perfect. I don't always hit it, but if I hit at least 3 of those, I'm probably doing good.
I love all of that. Where do I start? I mean, one of the things I was going to ask you was like, just approaching it from like a little bit of wider angle of like, the crowds you play for, the level that you're at. I was going to ask you like, what more does one want really? I mean, as a musician, when you start out as a musician, it's kind of like that's the dream, right? I mean, that's the dream. You want to be a rock star and you want to play for thousands and have that. Most don't have that. When you do have that, I was going to ask you like, what's your relationship with, staying the course of just self-improvement and really like keeping your head in the game. And it sounds like you have a really good grasp on that. And it also sounds like it's work, you know?
It is. You got to treat it like a job because it is one, which it's about maintenance too. Like success is never earned. It's really just, or it's borrowed on a daily basis based on action, right? And
Yeah.
so if you quit doing what got you to that level of success, you're probably going to lose it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? At least that's how I see it. And maybe that's fear based, but at the
No.
same time, like I love doing it, so I need to maintain it. And I ebb and flow. Like sometimes I'm really inspired. I'm just learning a bunch or like writing a bunch. And sometimes it's a little bit more like I show up and practice and I just kind of get through playing some scales and like, hey, I clocked in today, but I
Yeah.
did it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
it's just a consistency. I think
Yeah.
that's it. Like find a couple things that you can do consistently to keep on the path. And so
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty dialed in with that. I'm always feeling like I could do more, but that's also the balance too, because if you do too much, you burn yourself out. And so it's like, how do you keep it just fresh enough, yet you're moving the dial? And really, I mean, it's just like the plateaus are getting so far, um, are so much longer. It's like you just have to stay the course. That's really it. Think of it more like endurance versus a sprint
Hmm.
now.
Do you idle pretty high? Are you kind of just a natural doer? Like, do you like to stay busy? Do you have a hard
Yeah,
time?
I
Yeah.
struggle with anxiety and depression. I have my whole life, and like that, I did some of the only. I was in the best shape of my life, running like 6 to 9 miles a day after a breakup and a relapse, because that was the only times I wasn't having psychic pain. It was like if I was running, and then I could, play a little music too. But
Hmm.
I've kind of noticed that like the anxiety, as much as I hate it, the asset of it is that it's always kept me in like, okay, it's time to do something, dude. Like get off
Hmm.
your butt, get out. Like, what is it? And then after I get through a few things, it quiets down. But it's like I wake up every morning and it's back to some degree. But anyway, it never ends. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, idle pretty high, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah. I do too. That's why I'm kind of like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, I'm tracking everything you're saying. So you're not alone in that. Let's talk a little bit about, because you've been doing this for a really long time. We were talking before we hit record. Um, I live up here really close to Pooties, and you talking about how much you love that place. But you were a young kid when you started playing. And I don't just mean like playing in your bedroom. I mean like playing on stage too. Talk a little bit about that and how that's, just the arc of, you know, starting that way as such a young kid and then obviously becoming this amazing guitarist, um and multi-instrument. I mean, you play multiple instruments, but what was it like starting at that young age and just being around all those people and sort of being treated like an adult? Is that fair to say?
yeah, I mean, like we were talking about with Pootie, the first time I ever played his club, I was 12, and
Mhm.
he became such a great friend. He was actually the first tour bus I ever went on. I was 18. It was Pootie, and I was opening up for Willie Nelson at Stubbs. But yeah, he would like smoke joints with me and give me moonshine when I was 17. Like he'd be like, "Come here, big boy." Like we just left Georgia. I was telling you that, and it was great. I thought it was amazing. I probably wouldn't want to smoke dope with teenagers or my daughter. I don't smoke dope really anymore anyway, but that's besides the point. But it was really great. So, you know, my mom passed in a house fire when I was really young, and they moved us across town, and so I couldn't play with my friends. So all summer long, I just played like video games and guitar, and just was guitar. And then my dad took me out to the Spoke, and we saw these musicians, and he ran into this lady Michelle Murphy, and she hooked him up with Johnny X and Speedy Sparks and some of these other musicians from the '70s that he used to know when he was a piano player. And they were like, well, teach kid Will how to play Johnny Be Good. And I would play with them, and then 50s and hundreds would start to come out in the tip jar. And so they're like, oh, let's make the kid play with us more. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I knew like a couple Chuck Berry licks and like some Nirvana songs, but they would teach me more. They taught me a bunch of old school, like surf music, rock and roll, blues, country, a lot of roots music. And so I'd play with these 50-year-old men. Um, and I just never looked back. I did this show at Auditorium Shores when I was 15, and it was like 5,000 people. And the mayor gave me Will Knaak Day, and that was like kind of the turning point. Like I've only officially gone through eighth grade, but I got a GED. But I was like ruined at that point. I remember before 15, there was a moment like when I was 13, 14, when I was like, well, I don't know, guitar. I'm gonna go back to school because I dropped out in seventh grade, and then I came back in eighth grade because I wanted to talk to girls. And then I was like, no, guitar, and then that was it. And the only girls I was gonna meet were, girls at bars. I don't know if that's appropriate. Some of this, oh man, I played a strip club when I was 17 for 3 weeks, Monday nights with the Esquires. That was called the Crazy Lady, and they eventually decided that I couldn't do the gig anymore because they probably shouldn't have a 17-year-old in the strip club. But I did meet a stripper, and anyway, that's you can.
I
It was
like.
great. It was crazy. I don't want to get too in the story. It was insane. Um, I
You
ended
need
up
to write a
walking.
book.
I ended up walking down the highway I-35 because I left her hotel room because the things she was saying were so insane to me.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, yeah, I got to get away. I had a
I
little bit more sense than I gave myself credit for.
I feel like you could write a book. Do you feel like you could?
I've had people say that, especially when I start telling some stories, and I have actually kind of started doing a little bit of like, the idea is like just a general premise of like what it was like growing up as an Austin musician, and then it's just going to be short stories from all of it.
Essays.
If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So you could just sit down and read in out of order. Like you could read one, you're at coffee
Yeah.
table. Interesting. Here's a story about Pootie. Here's a story about whatever. Yeah, it's an idea. It'd probably take me a while, and obviously you keep adding to it, but I feel
Yeah.
like there's a couple stories I don't want to let out till maybe I die. So maybe I'll have to have two versions. The
Yes.
and the posthumous version of like, wow, I was really that messed up. Okay, good. I'm glad you made it.
I like that idea is having that second version for, when it's safe.
But just having all the opportunity here, like I didn't even know I wanted to be a guitar player, but there was an opportunity, and just enough people were willing to show me. Like I got to play with Charlie Sexton and Will on stage, sitting in on Johnny's guitar when I was 12. I didn't even know who they were. I didn't. I played with Doug Somm twice. Once at the Hole in the Wall, and once the Broken Spoke. Alvin Crow let me sit in before he hired me, and I just didn't have any clue who Doug was. It's like I was learning in real time. I just knew like Nirvana, Jimi Hendrix, and a couple Chuck Berry licks, but I was getting educated at the time. But that's just so wild. Like I definitely didn't deserve to be up there with those musicians. I hadn't proved anything, but it was there, and they were willing. They saw that I had an interest, and I was just enough to get in the door. And then, hell, if you give me an opportunity, I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah. Do you feel like your own personal journey? Do you feel that you've earned it now to be on the stage that you're at with Parker and Blue October? Do you,
I mean, 110% in reality, yes. I mean, it's been work. I never gave up on it. I borrowed money to pay phone bills. I should have, like any sensible person would have quit in my some of the things I was doing in my early 20s. Like, but I was just like, absolutely not. I will sleep under a bridge and be a musician if that's what it takes. And granted, there was enough people in my corner, and they saw that I had the drive, and some people expected that I had talent or whatever. I don't really think that I'm all that talented. I think that I just worked pretty hard.
Mm,
But sure, there's probably a little bit of each. You know, um, but in the same token, the duality of that is that I still just see like how much I would like to improve or how far I want to get. It's like Parker's new album is called Never Enough, and I relate to that. But at some point, you have to have a balance of like gratitude, like this. Yeah, this is about as good as it gets. This is if you had been doing this stuff. I was trying. My goals were even less lofty than what I've achieved to some degree, to be
yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Like I remember thinking like if I could just make $100 a gig as a kid, like you kidding me? But anyway, so and I had more dreams than that later as things evolved. And I still have some things I'd like to do, and I won't necessarily say them by jinxing them, but I think by and large it's all been there. It's just you got to leave some things, right? I mean, who knows? Who knows
Yeah.
what can happen? And why? At this point, I also don't want to doubt myself or get into like, oh, that's too unrealistic to dream it. Like I've said this, like, why do I dream bigger? Because I already have seen that what's possible. So I'm limiting myself and my own ability by believing something's not possible.
You should absolutely keep going. Like never stop for sure. Yeah.
No, I think I found a really good camp. I mean, Parker is just really a great guy. He's very passionate about it. He takes care of people so well, and everybody that makes everybody want to do their best. And so the culture in just it's really high. It's a really high bar, a really great group of people and personalities, and so and just being with him, that like the future's so bright. Even though if it just stayed where it's at, it's amazing. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's seen the. If I had to bet, I don't think it's seen even what it's going to get to. That's
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, I think from my perspective too, I feel like he's still on that kind of, upward
Yeah,
momentum. You
yeah.
guys look like you're having so much fun. One of my favorite things is just there's some great photography on your Instagram page of you playing, and you just always look so happy and that you're having genuinely a good time. Is that true while you're playing?
Oh yeah. It's you'd be a jerk to have a bad time. You'd be missing the point.
Yeah.
I've gotten even better about it. That book I've been reading, The Inner Game of Music, like every now and then I'm a perfectionist, and like if it might not even be a wrong note. Like someone might not even notice, right? A musician's ear, but like I just didn't attack it long enough. Like I had this one, I did a pedal steel intro, and like the volume pedal just swelled a little too late and then too quickly, and it's still the right notes. But like, man, it wasn't as smooth as I wanted. And in the past, I think I could have been a little bit like get in my head about that. And said now it's just really like, hey, that was the expression tonight, and you're human. It's not wrong. Um, be joyful, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So you also do your own stuff too. You have solo stuff. So you write music. Do you sing as well? And
Yeah, I'm releasing an album this year. I recorded it out at Justin from Blue October Studio, and it's kind of like a psychedelic blues and delta rock record.
nice.
It's going to be called Dying Day, and the songs are mixed. They're going to mastering, and then I have to do a little bit of artwork, and I'm going to start releasing singles probably in the spring. So I don't have much time. I better get on it.
You better
Um,
boogie. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty ready. I mean, at this point, like I'm not going to try and release the whole album at once. I'm going to do like a single a month or something digitally, and actually maybe try and put some money into promoting it just a little bit to see
Yeah.
just what that's like. Because I've never done that. I've never invested in promoting my own music in any way.
Yeah.
It'll be modest, but yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think that it's kind of like a South Austin Jimi Hendrix with to me like that's kind of like what I think I gravitate to more the most. But I mean, I've obviously being a musician, like I felt like prior records and things I was trying to do, I had too many interests from everybody I was playing with. It's like, uh, what's the sound I identify the most with?
Yeah.
I think I found it in this, so I'm really happy that regardless if people like it or not, I feel like it represents me. It's like, oh, that's my signature art. That's my signature sound. That's
I
what makes me
love that.
different from everyone else. And so that's the only difference. Um,
I love that. I love that you already seem to kind of understand it all. Maybe that's because you started this really young or, I don't know why, but just really feels like you kind of like you understand the assignment here in life, especially creatively. You know what I mean? Just I love hearing that you just said it doesn't matter if anyone else likes it. I found my sound for me. Like that is that's not like that's a big thing to know down to your toes. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people struggle with that.
no, I have too, and it's finally it took me. I turned 40 at the end of the year. I don't tell anybody, but
Dude, I just turned 48 yesterday. So
48.
you
No,
are
I get it's
young.
all. I don't feel any way about it. But I mean, it's taken this long, and
Yeah.
um, I can even do something better. I'm sure now. I mean, it's recorded like every record's out, but it does feel like something that I'm just proud of. Yeah, like if I died tomorrow and it was out, like I left my art behind, and you can know me to some degree by listening to it. You
That
know.
makes me really happy. For those of us that live in Austin as well, do you think we can come and see you play
Yeah,
sometime?
I'll end up doing some release shows. I'll probably do something with Sun Radio because I'm real tight with those guys,
I love Sun
and
Radio.
then
Yeah,
maybe do something at Saxon or I
love
hadn't
it.
figured it out yet, but yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll be doing something
I love
when it
that.
comes out. Probably more towards the end of the year. I'll probably do it maybe more when Parker slows down, so that I can really invest in some time to like get it together and get the musicians together and do it right and focus on it.
Yeah. Well,
And then
that'd
the
be
album will be out by then because all the singles will releasing at least 4 to 5 before I release the whole thing to give each song their moment. As is what I've been told by people who do this. Like that's why you release singles now first, and whatever. Okay, I mean, do I have a big ploy like I'm gonna go win a Grammy or sell a million records? No, but I'm gonna do it like that because that's what makes sense. It also takes the pressure off me of like releasing it all at once and kind of slowly introduce people to it. And like then they get a chance to really like that song and maybe wait for the next one. I get the point of it. Like each song has
Mhm.
their moment as opposed to
Yeah.
here's the whole record and then most of the songs get glossed over except one.
Yeah, because it's not like it used to be when I was a kid and I remember being a kid laying on my stomach in the living room floor with the record on and the vinyl jacket open and you absorb all the songs and you dive so deep into it and we just don't really do it that way anymore. So I agree with you. I like the slow drip. I think don't give it all away. Like, let those songs, you kind of have to force people to listen these days.
Right, so if you force them one song at a time over the course of a year. I mean, I'll just do not release every song individually, and at the end of the year, you got a 10-song album. You
Hey.
know?
Yeah. So you mentioned you have a little girl. Let's talk about that really quickly. Like I'm a parent as well. How has that changed you? And what's the biggest when you kind of look back? She's how old is she now? 4?
She turns 4 in April. Yeah.
Aw. So 4 years of being a dad, like, I mean, I know firsthand that it obviously changes someone. What's when you look back on that whole process, what's the biggest thing that stands out of how you've evolved and grown?
Well, it definitely increases your heart size, or something I'd say, right? Like I
Yeah,
feel like I'm a little more sensitive, uh,
yeah,
and um, it's also like nice to experience the world a little more fresh again. Like,
yeah,
Christmas is cool again, and
yeah.
things like that because you're seeing the world through her eyes a little bit, and so it gives you a different, more fresh perspective. Yeah, I mean, I miss her a lot when I'm gone. There's been some times when I think about her, I can start to tear up when I'm separate, and it's like, okay, that's just yeah, it's just intense. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's the best. It's just
it,
the best. Yeah. I agree with you. It's so cool. I think I've reconnected so much with myself watching my kids grow because I have ended up giving myself grace of going like it wasn't that long ago that I was just a little kid. I feel like I love myself more since becoming a parent, of going like, wow, it is hard. I have 2 teenagers now and they're
well
going
done.
through all the teenager stuff. And I'm like, I just feel myself being nicer to myself because I'm watching, what they kind of live through. So
Uh,
congratulations for being a dad. That's awesome.
yeah, congratulations for being a mom. I didn't really even have a desire to have a kid, prior, and um, at the same token, like I wouldn't change it for the world. Like
Yeah.
it's the one thing I wanted that I didn't know I wanted. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all good. And Emily and I are really really good. So we're not together anymore, but we're in a really good place, and
Good
it's all good around Nova.
co-parenting.
So yeah, yeah, and she's
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's awesome. Wonderful. Well, what do you have going on before we end? Like, see, you go back, it's Wednesday night, so you hop in. Oh, no, is it Wednesday or
Tuesday night.
Tuesday? I don't even
Yeah,
know.
it's okay. Now tomorrow we go to Chicago,
That's
and
right,
then
yeah.
we're playing some shows in the Midwest, and then yeah, come home Sunday and
It's a
do.
pretty nice deal. That's a pretty nice schedule. When I think of tour, and I think you're really the first person I've talked to that has that kind of schedule. Like when I think tour, I think like you better have some tips on packing and like you're gone for 3 months or however many months. But this is really nice. I like that you get to kind of come back home.
Yeah, it's interesting for whatever reason in the country world. There's a lot more of that. I don't know
Okay.
if it's because they're basing the values more around family priorities and like being home, not being gone too long. But
Mhm.
it is a pretty common thread where, um, it's just a Thursday, Friday, Saturday run each week. Because and honestly, like I kind of get it too. Like Monday shows just don't sell as well. Tuesday
Yeah.
shows don't sell as well. And I get it if you're a rock band, you're doing this, like you stay on the road. And I mean, Blogtober would play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, take Monday, Tuesday off, but you stay on the bus because it's expensive to fly home. And that's another thing. That's like Parker taking care of people is like it probably costs him a little bit more money to get everybody home, but then he would have to pay for hotels to keep them too. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's a way that it probably costs a little bit more, but it kind of works out the best for everyone. And I mean, it's all a tax write-off anyway. I don't know how that works. I don't pretend to know how that works. I'm just grateful he does it. But
Yeah.
it is actually a little bit more of a trend in country music, as
Oh,
I've
yeah.
noticed, which is cool. So it's a good schedule. But you know, traveling and waiting around is the hardest part of the job. And other than that, it's a
Yeah.
cakewalk and really good people just trying to grow every day a little bit,
I
play
love
well.
it. Well, it sounds like you are just dialed in, and I can't wait for your music to come out later on this spring, maybe.
Yeah,
We
yeah, I'm gonna
can,
get going.
yeah, and I'm excited. Well, I'm glad you're doing this, and I'm so glad to meet you. And I hope we run into each other, sometime in the near future. Say
We
hi.
will for sure. That's
Yeah.
nice to meet you too.
All right. Well, I'm gonna keep my eye on this guy over here and see what he's up to. But that does it for this episode. Bye, Will.
Bye.
We will see you guys next time. Bye.